All right, welcome back. It's the NFL Exporter on the check-in Raw Radio Exporter Sports Talk Show. Um, we're about to jump into our Week 1 slate of NFL games. I know everybody is very excited about that. And before I move on, make sure that you're here with us each and every Wednesday, 6 o'clock p.m. We got a fantastic show. What we're going to be doing every week is taking a look at all the games for the upcoming week, and then also taking a look at some fantasy football matchups, what players to start, what players to sit, and kind of just throw around some loose topics. And so that's going to be real exciting. We're here every single Wednesday, 6 p.m. from now until the season is over. So we're going to grind this thing out for the next 5.5 months and make sure that we end with the number one sports talk radio show on the internet, on TV, on radio, period. All right, we know that obviously the big boys, the ESPNs, your NFL networks of the world, et cetera, they got the big bucks, so obviously they're on television. But as far as a pure analyst, as far as pure reporting, as far as the facts, as far as giving you the correct perspectives, the correct views, you're not going to find anybody else better than the NFL Exporter in the business. So again, I'm putting the word out there, again, not as a diss to my colleagues, but more of a I'm really on my grizzly, trying to put it down, to let it be known that I'm definitely a heavyweight when it comes to this NFL and this fantasy football. All right. So without further of ado, and real quick too, let's go ahead and drop those social networks so you know where to check us out there. For myself, NFL Exporter, you can find me on Facebook. You can find me on Twitter at NFLExporter. That's spelled NFLExporter. My people on Instagram, I just got the account up there, so don't got a whole lot of traffic yet. Nonetheless, NFL Exporter, spelled the same exact way. I'm on LinkedIn, so check me out over there. NFL Exporter, Lance Goodman is the name over there. And then the YouTube channel where you can catch all the Raw Radio footage. You can just simply put in NFL Exporter on Raw Radio in your search engine, or go to my YouTube channel, which is NFL Exporter. So I'm NFL Exporter across the board. For Raw Radio, definitely Twitter, Raw Radio 1, and Facebook, Raw Radio 1. You'll see the logo, the double R up there. So you want to definitely make sure to catch us and follow us on there. All right, let's hop into these slated games. First game we mentioned, kicking off the season, Green Bay Packers at the Seattle Seahawks. This should be a fun one. NFL always gets it right, opening up the season ever since they start doing Thursday night football. We know the Seattle won the Super Bowl last year. That crowd out there is going to be crazy, that 12th man. I know the Seahawks are going to be filled with a lot of adrenaline. The Packers got their work cut out for them. Obviously, the Packers certainly have a playoff championship caliber team. Certainly, they've won their division the last 3 years in a row, so we know they can do that. But the last 2 years in a row, they've been ousted in the first round of the playoffs. So the Packers certainly looking to build and try to get back to the Super Bowl and win it like they did back in 2011. So let's take a look at this matchup. On the offensive side of the football, Seattle quarterback Russell Wilson entering his third year. This kid's stars continuing to rise. First 2 years in the league, he's averaging 26 TD passes, 9 interceptions, about 500 to 600 yards on the ground. Real smart player. I mean, this guy was a steal. He's a franchise quarterback. Seahawks end up drafting him in the 4th round. So, I mean, Russell Wilson is certainly a player who is on the map now. Big season for him. He looked great in the preseason, 33 out of 42, 3 TD passes, no interceptions, 3 rushing TDs. So he's leading the charge. This guy said he wants to be one of the best. And based on what I've seen from him his first 2 years, and then the maturation he's made over the summer, man, the Seahawks definitely got a foundation around him that he can certainly do that. In the backfield, beast mode, Marshawn Lynch. You know what he's bringing to the table, averaging over 1,300 yards, 12 TDs the last 3 years. He's a straight monster. And at the receivers for Seattle, Percy Harvin, he missed the majority of last year. He's stepping in, big explosive guy in the passing game, can get it done on the ground as well. Doug Baldwin, Jermaine Kearse, a couple receivers who don't have the biggest names, but perfect fit for that Seattle system. And Russell Wilson knows how to find those guys. On the defensive side of the football, Seahawks bringing back the best defense in the NFL. Legion of Boom secondary with Rich Sherman, Earl Thomas, Cam Chancellor and them boys. Bobby Wagner, KJ Wright. I mean, them boys is definitely loaded on defense. And so the Seahawks definitely, they were number one in our NFC power rankings. And so, man, they're coming back fully loaded. We're just going to see if they can handle being 100 this year. Everybody's definitely going to be giving them their best shot. Take a look at Green Bay. We mentioned Aaron Rodgers, definitely one of the top 3 or 4 quarterbacks in the NFL. Have a good running game now with second-year running back Eddie Lacy. So they got some more balance on offense. All the pressure is not on Rodgers to gun it through the air. But when he does take it to the air, which he still does often, has some certainly some great targets. Jordy Nelson, Randall Cobb, second-year player Jared Boykin. I think the concern for the Packers is just holding up in pass protection. They have not been able to get consistent in that area, and the Seattle Seahawks defense definitely brings the pressure. So I'm taking a look at this game, considering the game is in Seattle, number one, a place they've only lost once in the lost once in the last 2 seasons. They're going to be getting presented their Super Bowl rings. It's just going to be too much, man. That crowd is going to be crazy, and we know that Seahawks defense steps up in a major way anytime it comes to playing an elite quarterback. You're seeing how rough they made it on Peyton Manning last year in the Super Bowl. The couple of times they played Drew Brees last year. We're going to go with this one, Seattle at home, 28-20. Next, we got New Orleans traveling to Atlanta, big in-division rival there. We know a lot of people from New Orleans live in Atlanta. A lot of people from New Orleans make the trip yearly to Atlanta. So that's always a big rivalry and fun game to be a part of. We're looking at the Saints this year. Certainly made some upgrades across the board. I certainly think that they're a championship contender this year. Won one playoff game last year before getting exiled by that Seahawks team. Drew Brees leads the charge. You already know, again, one of the top 2 or 3 quarterbacks in the NFL. Jimmy Graham, stud tight end. Definitely got some nice options in the passing game with Marcus Colston, second-year guy Kenny Stills. Rookie Brandon Cooks is a name to watch out for. And then I think the Saints are going to try to get a little bit more balance this year. We got running back Mark Ingram. He looked real good in preseason. You know, Pierre Thomas is a guy who can catch out the backfield. On the defensive side of the football for the Saints, certainly like defensive coordinator Rob Ryan, what he's bringing to the table. On the front lines, you got Cameron Jordan. You certainly got a good linebacker in Curtis Lofton. He's a former Falcon. He holds it down in the middle. And then I really like the safeties over the top, and second-year guy Kenny Vaccaro. And the Saints went out and got Jarius Byrd, the ball hawk from the New Orleans Saints. And so certainly I think that the Saints have a very well-rounded team. If they can stay healthy, they will be there in the end. Looking at this Atlanta Falcons team trying to get back on track from a very disappointing last season where injuries really plagued this team. Obviously, on the offensive side of the football, they're stacked up. Matt Ryan is still a top 10 quarterback in the NFL. Roddy White and Julio Jones are certainly one of the best pass catching duos in the NFL. Steven Jackson is a good running back. He's a little bit older. Obviously, injuries have kind of marred him the last couple of years, but still a productive player. The offensive line is a concern with Atlanta. You know, their starting tackle, Sam Baker, is out for the year with an ACL injury. And so that was one of the main problems that Atlanta was trying to fix the last couple of years, was not being rough enough in the trenches, not being able to run the ball effectively, and not being able to hold up in pass protection. So we're going to have to see how that works out. Defensive side of the football, certainly a weakness, at least on paper, coming into the season for Atlanta. Not a lot of name guys. Has some veterans there. Osi Umenyiora, Corey Bierman, Jonathan Babineau. He's on the front lines, but they lost their best defensive player in Sean Witherspoon. He's out the entire season with an ACL. Look at their secondary, a couple second-year guys at defensive backs. William Moore is definitely a hard hitter at safety, but they got their work cut out for them this year in Atlanta. Their defense we're going to watch, because if they can stay healthy on offense, they certainly got the pieces in place over there. Another key point I wanted to mention for Atlanta, obviously they're going to make the adjustment. They've had future Hall of Famer Tony Gonzalez the last couple years. He is no longer with the team, so they're going to have to make amends for him. They're going to be looking for Harry Douglas to step up. Taking a look at this game, based off of what I just told you, we got to roll with New Orleans. It's going to be tough in Atlanta, but we're going to roll with it with New Orleans in this one. It's always a close game. We're going to go New Orleans 23, Atlanta 17. All right, next we got the Cincinnati Bengals traveling to the Baltimore Ravens, another division rival. You know, the Cincinnati and Baltimore are really close together, and this should be a real hard-hitting defensive game. Cincinnati Bengals won a division last year. Ravens did not make the playoffs, and actually it was Cincinnati who dealt the final blow to the Ravens to make sure that they didn't get into the playoffs. So I'm quite sure that's still fresh in Baltimore's mind. A little changing of the guard here for Cincinnati. They're going to be without their second best wide receiver, Marvin Jones, probably for 3 to 4 weeks. He had a foot injury in the preseason. Mohamed Sanu will step in for him, but they still have arguably the second best wide receiver in the NFL in A.J. Green. Giovanni Bernard is definitely a productive running back. He's stepping into this year trying to hold down the workload. That offensive line is a concern for Cincinnati. Have not been able to open up consistent holes to run the football over the year, and have certainly failed in pass protection. Quarterback Andy Dalton, all the pressure's on him. Received a big contract in the offseason. Has led Cincinnati to 3 straight playoff appearances, but they have not been able to win a playoff game. So the pressure is certainly on him to succeed. On the defensive side of the football, they lost defensive end Michael Johnson. Also, coming in last year, Geno Atkins was a Pro Bowl defensive tackle. He had an ACL injury last year. He is not back at full strength, so we got to make sure that Cincinnati is still rough in the trenches. And then also, I like the linebackers. Ray Malaluga, he's got to stay healthy, but he's an effective player. Vontez Burfict is definitely one of the best outside linebackers in the NFL. Versatile player, gets it done, rushing the passer, definitely a hard hitter, can even drop back into coverage, kind of see his nose always around the football making plays. Secondary, a little bit older, but they got some nice depth there. You got Terrence Newman, he's 35, Leon Hall's 29. They still got Adam Jones and the nickel, and then they went out and drafted arguably the best defensive back coming out of college last year, Darquez Dennard from Michigan State. So got some depth there, and then over the top you got Reggie Nelson playing safety. He's a good center fielder. We take a look at the Ravens. Like I said, a couple changes for them. Number one, we talked about it earlier. They're going to be without Ray Rice, their star running back, for the first 2 games of the season. So Bernard Pierce is going to be holding down the load. But Joe Flacco has a lot more weapons at his disposal. Last year, he kind of got stuck with just Torrey Smith in the passing game due to injuries to Dennis Pitta. They traded Anquan Bolden, and Jacoby Jones missed some time to injury. Well, this year, they added veteran Steve Smith from Carolina. Dennis Pitta, the tight end, is back healthy. Marlon Brown, who had a very good rookie year, he's in his second year, and Jacoby Jones is healthy. So Flacco certainly got better weapons in the passing game. Also, former head coach of the Houston Texans, Gary Kubiak, is over there now. He brought over that zone blocking scheme. We've seen how effective that has been for teams. We talked about that a few times in our preseason editions on the Exporter Sports Talk Show. So I think their offense is definitely much better this year. I love the front 7 on defense. Haloti Ngata is a beast at defensive tackle. Drafted Tim Jernigan, defensive tackle from Florida State. Terrell Suggs and Elvis Dumerville. You know, those boys can bring the pressure from the outside. Courtney Upshaw is a versatile player up on the defensive line and outside linebacker as well. Inside linebacker C.J. Mosley was the best linebacker coming out of college this year. He's stepping in. He looked good in the preseason. Like the cornerbacks with Jimmy Smith and Ladarius Webb, the safeties are my concern. You got a second-year player and a rookie. They're definitely going to have to patch things up on the back end, but they're certainly hoping that front 7 can be stout enough to make life easy on that secondary. Again, it's going to be a hard-hitting game, man. This first week of NFL action is definitely on point. We're going to take the Ravens at home, exact a little revenge. I think they're a little bit more well-balanced right now. I think they'll be able to get that pressure on Andy Dalton, and they got the weapons on offense. So we're going to go in this one, Baltimore at home, 23-17. All right, we're going to take a quick commercial break. It's the NFL Exporter Sports Talk Show live on Raw Radio. When we return, we'll take a look at the next set of games on the Week 1 NFL schedule.